Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Wednesday, December 7th, 2016. Yes, and of course, 75th anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attacks, and many people are now realizing there is a lot of foul play that occurred, right? And I know there's stickers out there saying not, Pearl Harbor was an inside job, but we still have to pay respects to the fallen ones, regardless of what your views are on this. It's a real shame because you got innocent people, got our soldiers got destroyed, and of course many people claim that FDR was involved, had a lot of knowledge, and right now this information has been being leaked out little by little. I questioned it too when I was a kid myself when I started reading all the discrepancies. So, and another thing too, we gotta give your thoughts to the folks in Indonesia. They had a pretty bad earthquake. I think it's like 6.7 on the Richter scale. So, put your thoughts on it, on the president and anything else, anyone else around the world, because like tyranny's happening across the globe right before our eyes, even in Rio and I know too the Prime Minister Zenti from Italy resigned. I can't have my Club of Rome benefits anymore. Too bad. Some of these folks, man, you need a good a boot up their rear ends, symbolically speaking. So I'm not gonna go too crazy today on my show. It's gonna be expected to be pretty short. I've just been working past few days, so try to do a show. But I'm a stage so my hours are crazy. But thanks for listening. And you know what? We'll just start off right. Came from antimedia.org, and this one's entitled "The U.S. Senate Amidst the Dawn of Artificial Intelligence is Here." And it's by Jake Anderson. As it reads, despite Senator Ted Cruz's regressive positions on a number of issues, including climate change, on one point, artificial intelligence, he's trying to push the needle in his own way. Cruz opened up last Wednesday's hearing by the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Space, Science, and Competitiveness with an abrupt reminder that AI, or artificial intelligence, is becoming such a predominant part of our lives that investments in it will increase by 300% in the few years, whether we recognize it or not, Cruz said during the meeting. Artificial intelligence is already seeping into our daily lives. The speech was one in a number of rare addresses concerning artificial intelligence on the Senate floor. During and hearing Dr. Andrew Moore from Carnegie Mellon University and Dr. Eric Horowitz, managing director at Microsoft Research Lab, discussed how a variety of technologies have created an inflection point whereby computing speed, automation, and deep learning will combine to drive all AI technology further into human lives. Several speakers, including Senator Bill Nelson of Florida, discussed the impact AI would have on the human workforce and ultimately the economy. Anti-media spoke with Arthur-turned-politician Zoltan Istvan, who just finished running the Transhumanist Party campaign for president. The current incarnation of government meeting to chew the fat on AI might seem nothing less than futile to Zoltan, who says they're already behind and will remain so. As always, government is already one step behind, talking about trying to retain jobs for the AI age while not realizing that in the 2 to 5 years one spends retraining people, AI will already replace those newly created jobs. Zoltan proclaimed. The facts are very simple. AI will be better at everyone's job. The sole exception is the career of being an artist, as those jobs are subjective. But any nuts and bolts performance type jobs will soon be on the chopping block, up for grabs to the best AI and robot makers. This ties into what many scientific prognosticators have been hinting at for a while, the most being recent most recent being Stephen Hawking, who proclaimed that middle-class jobs will soon be eviscerated by AI and automation. Jobs like engineers, lawyers, nurses, teachers, truck drivers, and secretaries will all disappear, Sultan concurs, as will physical labor jobs like construction workers, trash collectors, or plumbers. Robots will be better. They'll never be late to work, argue with the boss, or sue their employer because they fell off the roof. The U.S. government must get used to the transhumanist age when millions of jobs will be lost every year to automation. And the only way to get used to that is to begin the laborious and challenging transition to a universal basic income where all the unemployed receive enough benefits to eat, have shelter, health care, and the basics to live. The government must resell the American dream. It's one of not working 9 to 5, but finding new uses for ourselves in a leisure lifestyle. As far as his chances of working in the Trump administration, Zoltan previously told Annie Media he was vibing for a position. The transhumanist was cautiously optimistic. Still, he was realistic about his chances of being tapped to come on board. I think for now they're still working on getting the cabinet filled, so smaller players like myself need to wait and hope we get hired. But I'm continuing to inquire and hope I'll hear back by something by January 1st. I'm not sure what my chances are. I might be a bit too controversial still. Well, 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 you know how that goes. Of course, a man like this, he will benefit from his transhumanist movement. As far as I'm concerned, Sultan Pie had a lot of investments into this program. So everything from construction, baby stagehands, and all that will be hurting the labor unions and so forth. So they want us. He wants to make it to all a fixed income. So can we say economic tyranny? And of course they're gonna say, okay, well, so what's gonna be next? Have one moment, train coming by. I'm in downtown Fort Lauderdale, by the way. So, but the whole thing is gonna be very interesting. But the truth of the matter is, remember, my friends, every high-tech gadget has a flaw. What's gonna happen? Oh, we're getting another robot. Get another robot. If people start malfunctioning or sabotage them, you can always get them where it hurts. Remember, my friends, the human mind is still the best thing. So whatever you do, do not submit to these gadgets by any means. Okay. But of course, Ted Cruz, Nolan Floyd Cruz, who decided to run for president, I just get a big kick out of it. But prepare yourselves, my friends. Instead of fighting each other, we have to fight for the better common cause. These next two is like commentaries, and this one came from Washington Times by Andrew Malapano, former judge. And it says here, are sanctuary cities legal? Well, let's hear what his analysis and opinion has to say about it, right? Last week, President-elect Donald Trump re-emphasized the approach he will take in enforcing the nation's immigration laws, which is much different from the manner of enforcement utilized by President Obama. The latter pointedly declined to deport the 5 million undocumented immigrants in the United States who are parents are children born here, children who, by virtual birth, are American citizens. Mr. Trump has made known his intention to deport all undocumented people, irrespective of family relationships, starting with those who have committed crimes. In response to Mr. Trump's stated intentions, many cities, including New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, have offered sanctuary to those whose presence has been jeopardized by the president's elect plan. Can they do this? Here is the backstory. Under the Constitution, the president is the chief federal law enforcement officer in the land. Though the president's job is to enforce all federal laws as a practical matter, the federal government lacks the resources to do that. As well, the president is vested with what is known as prosecutorial discretion that enables him to place priority of enforcement of certain federal laws and put enforcement of others on the back burner. Over time, with more than 4,000 criminals in the United States code, criminal laws in the United States Code, Congress and the courts have simply deferred to President and permitted him to enforce what he wants and not enforce what he doesn't want until now. Earlier this year, two federal courts enjoined Mr. Obama, and the U.S. Supreme Court, in a tie vote, declined to interfere with those injunctions from establishing a formal program whereby undocumented people who are parents of natural born citizens may lawfully re- remain here. It is one thing the courts ruled for the president to patronize federal law enforcement. It is quite another for him to attempt to rewrite the laws and put them at odds with what Congress has written. It is one thing for the president, for humanitarian reasons or because a lack of resources, took the other way in the face of unenforced federal law. It is another for him to claim that by doing so he may constitutionally change federal law. Mr. Trump brilliantly seized upon this, and the electorates general below the radar screen disenchantment with it during his successful presidential campaign by promising to deport all 13 million undocumented immigrants currently in the United States, though he later reduced that promise as to cover only 2 million among them who have been convicted in the United States of violating state or federal laws. Enter the sanctuary cities. There are places where are the large immigrant populations, among which many are undocumented. Yet where there is apparently not a little public sentiment and local governmental support for sheltering the undocumented from federal reach, Mr. Trump has argued that these cities are required to comply with federal law by actively assisting the feds, or at least not aggressively resisting them. Thus the question: are the state and local governments required to help the feds enforce the federal law? In a word, no. The term sanctuary cities is not a legal term. It has been applied by those in government and the media to describe municipalities that offered expanded social services to the undocumented and declined to help the feds find them, including the case of Chicago's offering undocumented immigrants money for legal fees to resist federal deportation. As unwise as these expenditures may be by cities, they are essentially bankrupt and rely on federal large, um, legacy in order to remain in the black. They are not unlawful. Cities and towns are free to expend the availability of social services however they please, taking into account the local political climate. Enter the U.S. Enter the Supreme Court. It has required the states, and thus municipalities in them, to make social services available to everyone resident within them, irrespective of citizenry or lawful or unlawful immigration status. This is because the constitutional command to the states of equal protection applies to all persons, not just citizens. So the states and municipalities may not deny basic social services to anyone based on nationality or immigration status. The High Court has also prohibited the federal government from commandeering the states by forcing them to work for the feds at their own expense by actively enforcing federal law. As Ronald Reagan reminded us in his first inaugural address, the states formed the federal government, not the other way around. They did so by ceding 16 discrete powers to the federal government and retaining to themselves all powers not ceded. If this constitutional truism were not recognized or enforced by the courts, the federal government could effectively eradicate the sovereignty of the states or even bankrupt them by forcing them to spend their tax dollars enforcing federal law or paying for federal programs. Thus, the Trump dilemma: he must follow the Constitution or the courts will enjoin him as they have his predecessor. He cannot use a stick to bend the governments of sanctuary cities to his will, but he can use a carrot. He can ask Congress for legislative grants of funds to cities conditioned under their compliance with certain federal immigration laws. All this part of the all this is part of our constitutional republic by dividing powers between the feds and the states, and by separating federal powers among the president, Congress, and the courts. Our system intentionally makes the exercise of federal government power cumbersome by diffusing it. And since government is essentially the negation of freedom, The diffusion of government powers helps to maximize personal liberty. And it's interesting because, like I say, you have to look. It's always you always got to examine the catch-22 of these of this particular issue. And to be very sincere, like they say, if the cities or municipalities are giving these folks that have criminal intent and giving them immunity, if that's the case, I think the citizens need to defend themselves and their families by those particular in particular folks. So the president cannot use based on this, the federal government cannot use the ramrod or the iron to say get them out and that's it. You may get them where it hurts on the financial part, which is legit, as long as it's goes by through Congress. That's why you got that. You got the 10th Amendment, okay, which they don't have to really comply with the feds. It's just the states' rights, and even areas on here with Federalist Papers 46, you can use by James Madison. I know I repeat this many times that the federal government cannot encroach on states' jurisdiction. So there's gonna be a lot of good, like I say, at least a lot of good folks out there that aren't in here legitimately. I always recommend this: apply for citizenship in good faith. Then you can get then you can really make things happen. Nothing's gonna be perfect. It's disappointing that you got a handful of them who just want to raise havoc, and the rest gotta collectively suffer. So, but building the wall, people can say whatever they want. I say let's end the North American Union. That'll be a first start. And I think the cities and all that, they got to make their own stands. So that is all on that area. Finally, I'm going to do one here. There's another one by Mark Nestman and Lou Rockwell put this on the site. It says here, carrying cash. It's a question mark. And as it reads, don't trust banks to protect the money you deposit. You're hardly alone. From a legal standpoint, the money you deposit in the bank no longer belongs to you. Instead, the bank owns it. You merely just another one of their unsecured creditors. What's more, in the event of future bank failure, the U.S. government has now signed an international agreement confirming that it will not pay off depositors. Instead, it will force them to submit into a bail-in regime, like bank depositors in Cyprus experienced in 2013. Bankster's holiday. Remember that. The bail-in scenario on the top of the lowest interest rates in 5,000 years has led many bank depositors to make the entirely rational decision to withdraw their savings from banks. They're taking the cash and storing it, often in a home safe. Indeed, sales of homes safes are soaring worldwide. This behavior deeply disturbs the powers that be. In response, they've imposed stricter and stricter controls on cash. I wrote about those controls a year and a half ago. There's a link for that too, so check it out. And since then, it's only gotten worse. In the U.S., one strategy the government uses to discourage people from holding cash is a civil forfeiture. Under the Alice in Wonderland legal process, cops can seize your cash or anything else you can own if they believe that it's somehow connected to a crime, any crime. You don't need to be convicted, accused, or even arrested for a crime to lose everything you own. And I know civil forfeiture, so all those bastards that are involved, you are treasonous scumbags, plain and simple. Even the ones in uniform. If you don't like it, the hell with you. I will continue on. They considered the case of Emilio Gomez Gonzalez. During a traffic stop, Nebraska state troopers asked Gonzalez for permission to search his vehicle. During the search, the troopers found bundles of currency totaling $124,700. Based on a dog sniffing narcotics residue on cash, police seized all the money. This is hardly proof that the cash is in the process of illegal drug sales. More than 90% of the U.S. bills actually contain traces of cocaine. Gonzalez connected the forfeiture in court. Prosecutors neither convicted nor accused Gonzalez or any of the owners of the seized cash of any crime, nor did the police find any drugs, drug paraphernalia, or drug courts connected to the cash. Despite these facts, a federal appeals court upheld the confiscation of every dollar found in the vehicle. Gonzalez without an exception because he fought the seizure of his cash. Most defendants don't because the burden of proof is reversed in a civil forfeiture case. In a criminal proceeding, you have the right to be presumed innocent until a jury finds you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If police seize your property, the civil forfeiture is presumed guilty. It's up to you to prove that it is not associated with crime. That's a tall order and a big reason why 80% of forfeiture cases go uncontested. Never, ever go, okay, you can search my vehicle. Never do that again, folks. Stop being a bunch of damn goody two shoes. Sorry. The procedural rules governing forfeiture cases are also very complex. Only a handful of attorneys are familiar with them, and they charge accordingly for this knowledge. The last time I checked, I couldn't find an attorney willing to help a client reclaim wrongfully seized power from police for a retainer under $20,000. If you're poor, like most victims of civil forfeiture, there's no way you'll be able to come up with money to contest the seizure. The biggest reason cops love civil forfeiture is that seizing agencies generally get to use the seized property for its own purposes. It's literally policing for profit, which while each state has its own rules for what cops can buy with the money they confiscate, pretty much anything goes. Milwaukee County Sheriff's invested $25,000 in forfeited monies for customer service training from the Disney Institute. Okay, if Sheriff Clark's involved, you're an Uncle Tom. Hopefully that's not the case. Police in Bal Harbour, Florida, with an estimated 2014 population of 2,633 spent $23,000 flying first class to Chicago, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles. One arrival they drove in style in deluxe vehicles such as Cadillac SRX and a Lincoln Town Car. The police department later spent $7,000 on a banquet and $21,000 on an anti-drug beach bash. That's north of Miami Beach, by the way, folks. Romulus, Michigan. Police chief used forfeited assets to buy $75,000 for tanning salon for his wife. He spent $45,000 on marijuana, alcohol, and prostitutes. What a hypocrite! A Texas district attorney spent $267,449 in forfeited assets on travel expenses, including numerous junkets and to casinos. Another Texas district money treated his office and their spouses to Hawaii for a law conference. He paid for it with $27,000 in asset forfeiture proceeds. The sheriff of Camden County, Georgia, used $90,000 of forfeited assets to buy a Dodge Viper for the county's drug awareness and resistance education (DARE) program. He also paid prison inmates $35,000 to build a very nice party house for himself. Admittedly, a few of these purchases broke even the very lax rules for permissible use of seized assets. For instance, in 2014, the former police chief of Romulus, Michigan, was sent to prison, and his 5 other officers allegedly embezzled more than $100,000. But it's not just the state and local governments that are getting in all of the fun. Federal law has authorized civil forfeiture since the dawn of the Republic for more than 2 centuries ago, and it becomes quite profitable. The Department of Justice alone seized more than $4.5 billion in 2014. Is just one of the many federal agencies with the authority to confiscate property under federal civil forfeiture laws. That comes as no surprise. In 1989, the Supreme Court actually ruled the federal government has a legitimate financial interest to maximize forfeiture revenues. Since then, federal agencies have developed highly sophisticated techniques to do just that. Take this Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, for instance. Earlier this year, an investigation revealed that the DEA routinely carries out data mining of Americans' travel information to build profiles of individuals who might be carrying large sums of cash. Kinda, sort of, it's the only way. Using a nationwide network of travel industry informants, the DEA gives special attention to individuals who meet secret drug courier profiles. such as buying one-way tickets or purchasing their tickets for cash. Oh my goodness! Run to the hills! Amtrak and airline employees who pass information on to the DEA are eligible for generous commissions if the tip leads to a seizure. Extortionist pigs. Over the last decade, the agency has seized at least $209 million in cash from 5,200 passengers. In the vast majority of cases, the passengers weren't arrested. They were given a receipt for the seized cash and sent on their way. So if you start chopping off their hands, they go, "Oh, you guys are criminals." But if they do it, that's okay because they think they're special. For instance, of 1,600 DEA forfeitures in Los Angeles in the last 10 years, only one was in connection with criminal investigation. Are you outraged? You should be, and it's probably about to get worse. President-elect Donald Trump has proposed a Restoring Community Safety Act that he claims to reduce surging crime in American cities. But the fact is that violent crime nationwide has actually been falling for the last 25 years. Given the love affair police at all levels of government have for civil forfeiture, it is inconceivable that a Trump anti-crime bill won't further unleash the forfeiture squads in America. But there is no law yet that says you can't move a portion of your assets outside the U.S. to countries that don't have civil forfeiture laws. Most don't. Even if you don't fit the profile for a civil forfeiture, and you probably do because it is so broad, you should seriously consider international diversification as Plan B, if you will. Today couldn't be soon enough to begin putting it in place. That Mark Nessman said it best, and this is why, my friends, civil forfeiture is a monumental deception. I call them extortionist pieces of garbage. I hate using this language, but some of these people believe they're more powerful than you because they have a badge, or they're elected or appointed within the government. They're not more than a bunch of pissants that practice this stuff. And hopefully, God, okay, if they ever get me in a civil forfeiture case, I will examine and crucify these bastards, the defendants, as long as everything has merit, because this is totally unacceptable. Because if we steal, we'll go to jail. But then they think they're special. You got to give them the same treatment, my friends. And this is why the spiritual awakening is in progress, and people are seeing the light. I'll guarantee you one thing: if President Trump's gonna try to pull something like this, you're gonna have a big problem, my friend. The 10th Amendment is has been reactivated for a long time and is in progress to go a little further. So you know what? You sit back, and anyone else that supports this crap, sit down, shut up, get another job. Deep down inside, you know I'm right. And that is all for now. Thanks for everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this episode and everything else on my archives throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something interesting I haven't checked out yet, whatever you do, please address this with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, or Scene.life. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is LokiLuck, the number 3 altogether at gmail.com. All right, folks. That's all for now. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.